Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's Daf Yomi, which is Yevamos Tzadik Beis. We are holding on Tzadik Aleph Amid Beis, 3 lines from the bottom. Amar Ravashi, back to the Mishnah. An Isha, whose husband left town, suddenly word arrives by way of an Eid Echad. One witness comes and testifies as to her husband's passing. Based on that testimony, Bezdin allows her to remarry, banking on the fact that she will thoroughly investigate this matter and confirm the facts before remarrying. In fact, it turns out that everybody was mistaken. 2 Eidim come and say, this fellow is still alive. Says the Mishnah, she must leave the new husband, Shimon. She cannot return to Reuven, and she's penalized all around. Omar Ravashi, that's only if 2 Eidim come, or the husband himself walks through the door, but let's say there's only a rumor to that effect. Ulekola, there's a koil spreading throughout town that Reuven is still alive. Ulekola, we're not concerned about that koil. We give it no credibility. We pay no heed to that koil which is circulating around town. Hi kola, when did this koil surface? Ilaima kola de basar nesuin. We're speaking about a rumor which has surfaced after she has already remarried. Isn't that pashut? Of course we don't listen to that. Ha'amra Rav Ashi chadazimna. Rav Ashi himself has already taught us that halacha elsewhere. Damar Rav Ashi, kol kola de basar nesuin. A rumor which surfaces after marriage, we pay no heed. We give it no credibility. A koil doesn't have the ability to undermine a marriage. So why would Rav Ashi have to teach it to us again in our sugya? Answers the Gemara, perhaps I would say, here it's different. Why? Perhaps you can say, keep in mind, here, she had to come to Bezdin and present this aid. And Bezdin deliberated, evaluated the evidence, and issued a heter. So perhaps in this case, where we ourselves suspected very strongly that he was still alive, right? It was a strong option. So then when Bezdin sanctioned this marriage, they sent her off with a heter, but after which there was a koil that comes back and says, 1 second, there was a mistake here. Husband is still alive. Perhaps we'll treat it, we'll deal with it as if that koil was here prior to her remarrying. Vitzitzer, and it would result in her becoming usher to the new husband. Keep in mind, this whole thing was in doubt to begin with. We know that her husband left town. We don't know what happened to him. We had a strong reason to think that he was still alive. But we will matter her because of the edus of the Eid Echad. She remarries. And then a koil comes back and says, 1 second, that fellow is still alive and well. So maybe we'll treat it as though that koil was here really before. It's sort of confirming our suspicions that we had all along. In which case, it will undo her situation, will remove the heter. Kamashmon, the Chiddush says, no. Fact is, once we allow it to remarry, we don't tinker with that marriage. Nothing short of reality staring us in the face, either by way of the husband coming through the door or 2 Eidim. Otherwise, nothing else can undo that psak bezdin, that heter. Nisas al bezdin teitze v'chulu. Mishnah speaks about 1 Eid who came to Bezdin. Husband's dead. Bezdin allows her to marry. Turns out we were mistaken. What does the Mishnah say? She's penalized on all sides. She's in real trouble. But, no carbon. She does not need to bring a carbon chatas. You know why? Because that's the halacha. When Bezdin initiated a process of a halacha, of a heter, and an individual follows that directive, although perhaps there was a mistake, although perhaps the fellow who followed through was really at fault, such as in our Mishnah, where she should have investigated. After all, Bezdin's Besak, Bezdin's verdict, Bezdin's heter was based on the fact that they were relying on her investigative efforts. So in any case, she's at fault for what happened, but the fact is Bezdin sanctioned it. Bezdin initiated the process. And then a yachid she'asa b'hoira'as Bezdin, a yachid who follows the directive of Bezdin, even if it turns out to be mistaken, does not bring a carbon. So our Mishnah is of the opinion that when Bezdin issues a verdict based on the testimony of a single aid, and they conclude that husband must be no longer amongst the living and they allow her to marry, it's considered a judicial decision. It's a Bezdin verdict, in which case, when the Yachid carried out, and the individual carried out that Psak Halacha, which turned out to be mistaken and groundless, husband's alive, but there's no chat, there's no carbon for this individual. Amar Zeiri, he disagrees with the Mishnah. Lesel masnissen, we must do away with the Mishnah. Miditani b'midrasha, in the face of a brisa which was taught in the Beis Medrash, which apparently is a reliable and authoritative brisa. Who disagrees with the Mishnah? The Tani b'midrasha, the brisa taught in the Beis Medrash, says as follows: Hayru Bezdin sheshak acham. Bezdin looks out the window and they see, look, it's past sunset. Matzah Shabbos. You can go turn on the light. And suddenly they notice the sun is shining. They mistook a cloudy sky for sunset. Turns out that they were factually wrong. And now all these people did malacha because of them. A malacha on Shabbos. Ein zoy hayra'ah. They're not exempt from carbon because this determination that Bezdin sort of issued, look, it's past Shakiyah. It's not hayra'ah. It's not a verdict. It's not a judicial decision based on evaluating, arguments and evaluating evidence. It's just a factual statement. It's past Shakiyah. Elatos. It's not a hayra'ah. It's not a psak. It's not a verdict. It's a tos. It's a plain, simple, factual mistake. It doesn't carry the value. It's not considered like a hayra'ah of Bezdin. It's not treated as a verdict, as a psak, attributed to Bezdin. It's not our personal verdict, our personal opinion, our ruling. It's just a factual mistake that we made. We thought it was after Shkia. It's not. So now that a yachid, an individual followed through, did malacha, which turns out to be on Shabbos, he brings a carbon. You can't sort of blame it. You can't attribute it to Bezdin. Therefore, says Zeiri, in our Mishnah as well. Think of it this way. A dechad comes and presents his testimony, his fact. Reuven passed away. Bezdin takes that as fact. And they pass that on further. They're sort of acting like his mouthpiece. They're publicizing, they're confirming the fact presented to them by the Eid Echad. It's not their personal opinion, it's not their take on things, it's not their perspective that it's forming the basis of this heter. It's the Eidus of the Eid Echad. It turns out that he was mistaken, that he was misleading them. Reuven was still alive. This Isha has to bring a carbon. You can't blame it on Bezdin, who is just following the fact as presented to them by the Eid Echad, which turned out to be a mistake. It's like after Shkia turned out to be before Shkia. That's Zeiri's opinion about this halacha, that the brisa, which brings this example of the Shkia, is very similar to our Mishnah, and therefore, just as over there, the fellow will bring a carbon over here as well. For Rav Nachman Omar, he disagrees. You can't compare our Mishnah to the halacha with the Shkia. The fact that Bezdin allowed her to remarry based on the testimony of the Eid Echad, that's considered a hayra'ah, a verdict, a psak, a judicial decision. In which case, if it turns out to be mistaken, as unfortunate as it was that she was an Ish's Ish who remarried, the bottom line is, who initiated this procedure? Who gave her that heter? Bezdin. there's no carbon. Amar Nachman Teda, I'll prove to you the Hira'ihi. And in fact, it's considered a psak, a Hira, a verdict which was a product of a deliberation process. Why? How do I know this? The B'chala Torah Kula, look throughout the whole Torah, Eid Echad Loi Mehemen, you almost never find, that an Eid Echad should be trusted and believed, and his testimony should be accepted in Bezdin. V'hacha Mehemen. Here's an exception. Suddenly, you trust one Eid. My time of why? Lav Mishum Darai. Is it not because here it's different? Why? Why is it different? We had this a couple of days ago. Why do we believe in Eid Echad? No. Why? Because here it's different. She's going to carefully investigate the story. Daika u'minsaba. And Bezdin was relying on that as well. So the Eid is presented by the Eid Echad is merely one element, was merely one component which contributed to the Psak Bezdin, which resulted, as a result of this, of a Bezdin deliberating and evaluating all the evidence, the fact presented by the Eid Echad, this psychological aspect as well, that, look, we're going to be very, very machmir on you if you error in this case, and that's going to compel you to look into it very well. So we're relying on all those factors, the fact that why would somebody mislead us with a fact that could be easily verified in the future? So the Psak Bezdin was really a culmination, was a product, was a result of Bezdin joining together several factors, packaging together several components, deliberating on them, evaluating them, and coming to this conclusion. It's a hira. And therefore, if it turns out to be mistaken, it's Bezdin's psak. That was an error. In which case, an individual followed that psak, who carried out that psak, who acted as a result of that hira, he is potter from carbon. Rava disagrees. He goes with the other opinion. Teda de Tosu, I'll prove to you that the heter that came about through the Eid Echad, which turned out to be a mistaken heter, is really nothing more than just a plain old factual mistake. How do I know that? Suppose he's going to draw an analogy to a different halacha, which will prove his point. Suppose Bezdin issues a psak that this chaylev, this dam, is mutter because of reason A. They gave some sort of rationale, right? And then they come back and say, you know what? That perspective is totally wrong. They contradict themselves. They say, look, it must be usher, and they prove it beyond a shadow of doubt. This is the correct approach. Isser. What happens now? Ki hadri v'amr le'atera. Suppose they come back and say, no, let's go back to that original way of thinking. That point of view is indeed justified. They go back to the original pshat, which they have already disproven as absolutely false and wrong. Are we going to listen to them? Of course not. We don't pay attention to them. They've already disproven that original notion. You can't just go and reactivate that svara which you have disproven. So that's generally right. Viluha hecha the asa eid echad. And therefore, in our Mishnah, in our halacha of the Aguna, suppose one eid echad comes along and says, husband died. Right? Sharina. So we issue the heter, go remarry. Relying on the fact that eid echad combined with her investigation, with the fact that why would they mislead us? So all factors combined, we go and we matter the issue. Also tre asrana. Then two Eidim come and say, no, Reuben is alive. We make a rasa, 2 against 1. Ki hadar asa eid achrinan. Suppose now a new Eid comes and says, he died today. A new story. He's no longer alive. Sharinillah, we'll matter her. What do you mean? How could you believe in Eid Echad? Haven't we just proven that an Eid Echad is not reliable? How can we continue working with the concept of Eid Echad who has just disproven himself, who has just been proven to be unreliable? I'm not talking about the same Eid, but the concept of an Eid Echad. That's not something to rely on. You see, the first Eid was contradicted by two. So apparently one Eid is not deemed reliable. So how can you go ahead and follow a new Eid Echad? Oh, my time and why? Lav mishum de tosu. Apparently, it's because we say, look, the first Eid, he misled us. His facts were factually wrong. But not this new fellow. No reason to question his validity. Now, if the heter generated by the Eid Echad is not just a factually based, it's a hayra, it's bezdin, coming to the conclusion that, you know what, his Eidus, together with the fact that the Isha will investigate, together with the fact that why would they mislead us if it's something that can be discovered? So all factors combined lead us to that judicial decision, that psak, that he must not be alive anymore. Eid Echad is something to work with. If that was the approach, then what happened? Then that Eid Echad was disproven. He was contradicted by two Eidim. Shouldn't that lay the matter to rest? Shouldn't that lead us to the conclusion, Bezdin, right? Bezdin should come to the conclusion that, you know what, skip that whole process. Apparently that system has proven itself to be unreliable. You see, Eid Echad doesn't mean much. So then when we have a new Eid coming along and say, well, he died today, how could we reckon with an Eid Echad? Hasn't it been proven to us that the whole concept of the Eid Echad combined with the other factors just doesn't work? So how could we believe the new Eid? Oh, says Rava, the fact that we still go ahead and we trust one Eid, even after having been bitterly disappointed by that original Eid, apparently it's because when we rely on an Eid, it's not our personal opinion, it's not our personal evaluation of the credibility of the Eid Echad process. No. It's just merely taking the fact presented by the Eid and taking it as fact. That's all. So it turns out that he misled us. Okay, misled us. But this fellow over here, hopefully he's not misleading us. It doesn't have a din, a status of ayra of Bezdin, which turned out to be unsubstantiated. No, it's just a fact presented by Reuven, which turned out to be false. Okay, this time around, hopefully it will be better. Hopefully it will be correct. So this, says Rabbi, is a raya. That the heter generated by the Eid Echad is merely a factual concept. It's not hayra. So don't blame it on Bezdin. It's not something Bezdin is sanctioning. It's not their personal judicial decision. It's classified as the Eidus of the Eid Echad, which was presented to Bezdin, which was accepted as fact. And therefore, if it turns out to be untrue, she committed znus as a result of that, she has to bring a korban. Because it's not considered having been done in accordance with Bezdin, sanctioned by Bezdin. It's just Bezdin took the facts from the Eid Echad and allowed her to act upon it. Rabbi Yehuda Kessler, the Tos, Rabbi Yehuda as well holds that if it turns out to be untrue, it's merely a factual untruth. It's not considered a judicial decision went ori. The Sanya of Lezo Eimer, Yikav Adin Sahar. The din should bore through the mountain, meaning we have to be machmer on the Isha who remarried as a result of this false testimony. But Tavi Chatashmeni has to bring a fat, a plump animal as a chatas. Why? Why does she have to bring a korban? If we're working with the tos concept, don't blame it on the bezdin. It's just a factual mistake. It's like the shkia that they were mistaken about. It's not their personal decision. If so, mishum hachi masya korban. I understand why Rabbi Lezer requires her to bring a korban. Eli amras darai. But if you consider it to be a hayra, a bezdin sanctioned procedure, amai masya korban, why would you bring a korban? apparently Rabbi Lezer as well holds that it's not considered a Hayro'as Bezdin. Says, well, no, not so fast. We'll do it maybe because of Rabbi Lezer holds, even if it was done, Al Pi Bezdin Yochid She'asa Boiras Bezdin Chayev. Rabbi Lezer perhaps hold that even if a Bezdin issues their own personal psak halacha and a Yochid follows and carries it out, turns out to be in error, he brings a carbon. He disagrees with this whole concept. Rabbi Lezer holds that even a Yochid who follows Bezdin brings a carbon. That's why she has to bring a chatas. Maybe it's a Hayro'as Bezdin, but still, it doesn't exempt her. Imkain, if that would be the basis for his halacha, why would he use this language? Ma yikov adin sa'ar. Let the din bore through the mountain, which sounds like there's room to be lenient. There's room for her not to bring a carbon because she can just attribute it to Bezdin, which is the general halacha when a yachad follows Bezdin. Apparently, Rabbi Lezer does hold of that in concept, but over here, no, we're machmer yikov adin sa'ar. We can't apply it in this case. She brings a carbon because in this case, it's not Hayro'as Bezdin, it's just a tos. So bottom line is, the Eid Echad allowed her to remarry. Of course, it was confirmed, sanctioned by Bezdin, but halachically speaking, was this a judicial decision? Product of the Bezdin deliberation, which was something that incorporated all the elements and the facts and the factors and the components of this situation. The edus with the isha daiko mitzvah, with the milsa avida de gluye, all the factors come that generated the heter Bezdin. Or do we say no? Bezdin was merely allowing the edus of the edecha to stand. If it turns out to be false, okay, it's a tos. It's not hayras Bezdin. So, based on that, we will have to decide whether she brings a carbon or whether she doesn't bring a carbon. The Mishnah says she does not bring a carbon. The Brisa says she does, and it's totally in these two points of view. The Mishnah concluded with an interesting chiddush. Hayroa Bezdin nasi. Bezdin says can go marry. Instead of marrying, she got involved with inappropriate conduct. What does the Mishnah say? She has to bring a carbon because Bezdin gave her the green light to marry. You see, we're speaking about one aid, which isn't generally sufficient proof for anything, right? Here we make exception, out of necessity. She's an aguna. So these extenuating circumstances propel the Bezdin into generating this new concept of, you know what, we'll give ne'emanis, we'll attribute trustworthiness and reliability even to an eidechad, with all its associated components, as we explained before, right? But it's a new concept which is applicable only in this type of case where she's an aguna, and otherwise would not be able to remarry. So when Bezdin relies on the eidechad, it's not just, okay, we're determining that you're no longer married, your husband passed away. No, that's not the point. The point is, in order to free you from your bondage, from your igun, from your being tied down, that's ego, being tied down. So to allow you to remarry, we trust the Eidechad. It's a very narrow, contextual type of heter. Because fact is, we don't know the fact. We're willing to rely on this measure, this level of ne'emanis, for one reason, to allow you to free yourself and go remarry. That's if you go remarry. It's a special heter to go remarry, but if you're just interacting with men, and not in a marital context, you have no heter for that. With reference to that, we treat you as married, as though you're still married, and you have to bring a chatas if it turns out that the husband was still around. So again, Harua Bezdin linase, Bezdin allows her to remarry, v'hochav kilkel, and when she acted inappropriately, she has to bring a carbon chatas if in fact it turns out that her husband was around. My kilkula. What does that mean, kilkula? What did she do? Rabbi Lezer Omer Zinsa. She interacted with a man as married. A man who potentially she could have married, but it was in a non-marriage context. Bezdin allowed her to remarry, not to commit zinus. And therefore, if husband turns up, she has to bring a chatas. Rabbi Yehuda Amar, if she got involved with a man with whom she could have had a potential marriage, then even that's included in the heter, because they will matter her to this man. So even though she chose not to get married at this point, she was only committing znus, it was still included in the heter, because she could have potentially married this person. But if it's an almana l'kohen gadol, grusha v'chalutza l'kohen hedyot, with whom she could not have even potentially had a marriage relationship, that was never included in the heter, and she brings a carbon. Ma'adomar zinsa, Rabbi Yehuda says that even by zinsa she's responsible. Kolshkin, of course, in the case where it's an almana l'kohen gadol, where there's no potential marriage. But ma'adomar almana l'kohen gadol, according to Rabbi Yehuda, perhaps only in these cases will she be held liable. Aval zinsa, but if she was mizana with a person with whom she could have had a potential marriage, why there's no carbon. My time of why the Amr, she says, look, Atun, you Bezdin, you Atun udishavisin pnuya, you turned me into an unmarried woman, and I conducted myself as such. And the fact is, with this man, I could have had a marriage relationship. I chose not to, but he was included in the heter. Tanik Vasad Rabbi Yehuda, we have right to Rabbi Yehuda that only the almana l'kohen gadol, etc., would be a problem. Bezdin gave her a psak to remarry, and she went and she acted inappropriately. She has to bring a carbon, but only in these cases because the man was not a potential husband. I'll call bia every single interaction, a separate chiyuv for each interaction. That's his shita elsewhere as well, and increases. It's only one carbon for the entire time together. Even Chacham would agree. If she decided to marry 5 separate people, all are almana l'kohen gadol situations, right? In that case, of course, she has to bring a carbon for each one separately. Shechayevas b'carbon al kol echad ve'echad, for every person. Hoyel v'gufim mechalokim, we're dealing with different gufin, different body, different people, and therefore each one generates its own chiyuv. Okay, these details pertaining to chiyuv carbon discussed at length in Maseches Krisis, but in any case, which example did the Brisa cite? Almana l'kohen gadol, grusha l'kohen hedyot. Only this type of situation generates chatas. But if she was committing znus with a fellow whom she could have married, apparently that is included in the heter, and there's no chatas for that. Continues the Mishnah. A wife whose husband and son left town, they came and informed her that meis balach, first husband passed away, while son was still around, so there is no yibum in this case. And then your son passed away. So first they said meis balach, v'achach meis b'neich, in that order. She figures there's no yibum, because when it was meis balach, the ben was still around. V'nisis, and she married out. She married a stranger. And then they came and they told her, well, we reversed it. It turns out that things were just the opposite. Factually, it was the other way around. First, son passed away, in which case, father at that point was childless, and then he passed away, and Yibum kicks in. So she had married out instead of getting Yibum. That's a love. So what happens now? Teitze. She must leave her husband, Vavlad, and the child that she had from him, Rishon ve'achrein, child that was born before this news arrived, and likewise the child that was born after this news arrived, mamzer. That child is a mamzer. The Gemara will tell us, going with Shittas Rabbi Akiva, that even a lav, an Isra lav, is treated like an erva, and child from this type of marriage is a mamzer. What about Amrula meis b'neich v'achach meis balich? Her husband and son left town. They came and they told her, look, husband passed away and then child, in which case, first child passed away and then husband, in which case she needs Yibum. So she's figuring, I'm a Yevama, v'nisyabma, and she went and did Yibum. And it turns out they were gravely mistaken. And then they came and told her, actually things happened the other way around. First husband passed away, leaving this child behind, in which case there's no longer Yibum, and then child passes away. The fact that that child was there at the point of her husband's passing deactivates Yibum for all time. Even after he passes away, even after child passes away, Yibum doesn't get reactivated. So it turns out that she was erroneously married to a brother-in-law. There was no Yibum needed here. It's just a plain brother-in-law. It's an erva. Here again, Teite, she must leave V'avlad Rishon v'achar mamzer, and the children. Child born either before or after this news arrives is a mamzer. Here it's fairly simple. The product of a erva marriage. Amrla meis balech v'nisis. They tell her, your husband passed away, and she went and married somebody else. There was no need for Yibum in this case. There were all the children. So she remarries. V'achach amrla. And then they tell her, look, kayam haya. Initially, when you remarried, your husband was still alive. V'umeis, and then he passed away. So currently he's no longer here. But at that point, at the point of your remarriage, he was still alive. What happens now? Here as well, Teite, she must leave her current husband. Vavlad. What about the child born from this union? Well, it depends. Rishon, the one born before that news arrived, meaning while her former husband was still around, that child is a mamzer from an ishes ish. V'achron ain't a mamzer, but the child born after he was really no longer around, that child is not a mamzer. In the fourth case, we have Amrula Meis Balech. They tell her her husband passed away. V'niskacha, and then she got engaged to somebody, not married, only engaged. V'achkach ba'bala, then her husband shows up. Muteras lachsali, she can go back to him because after all, she didn't really interact as married as anybody. She didn't commit an isser, and therefore we allow her back to her husband. And here's a chiddush: afa b'shenasan la'achron get. Even if the new husband Shimon gives her a get, that get is worthless. There's no need for a get. That get has no effect on her with respect to her potentially marrying a kohen. Ezu dor Shablazer ben Masyu. In fact, we have a drasha pasuk presented by Rabbi Yehuda ben Masyu. The pasuk says, "Kohen don't marry gerusha." It says, "V'isha gerusha me'isha," a woman who was divorced from her husband. Her husband gives a get. That's a get. V'loy me'ish she'ena isha, but not when she receives a get from a man who is not her husband, such as in this case. So this get has no effect whatsoever. So we have four cases in the Mishnah. Now in the first case, we have an Isha who married out. Instead of doing Yibum, she married a stranger. Mishnah says she must leave her husband and the child. Her Rishon va'achron is a mamzer. My Rishon, my achron. What does Rishon and achron mean? The first and last. What is that? My Rishon and my achron. Ilay, shall we say Rishon means lifnei shemua, child born before that news arrives. Va'achron means la'achar shmua, born after that news arrived. Well, either way you're saying all the children are mamzer, right? So why do you have to differentiate the first and the last? It's all the same thing. Listening, the Mishnah should say, Havlad mamzer, child is a mamzer. Oh, the answer is because Mishum the Kabbalah Mishnah is safer, because in the third case, later on the Mishnah, we make that distinction between child born before or after. Amr Lameis Balach, that's the case where they informed her about her husband's passing. Venisis, and she remarries. And then they came and they tell her, 1 second. We want to make a slight amendment. Kayim Hoya. He was truly alive at the point of your remarriage. Umeis, and then subsequently passed away. So there we have that distinction. Harishan mamzer, child born before he really passed away, is a mamzer, because she was still an Eshes. Va'achron, and a mamzer, the child born after he really passed away, is not a mamzer. So over there, this distinction, this differentiation is in fact in place. On account of that case, Tananami Reisha, and the Reisha as well, we use uniform language, and we say Rishon va'achron mamzer, we relate to Rishon va'achron, but really, it's all the same halach. Tanarabban, Zu divrei Rabbi Akiva. The halacha, the first halacha in the Mishnah, where the Yevamos married out creates mamzer, that's Rabbi Akiva speaking. And he says even when it's just a lav situation, we treat her like an erev, and kedushin doesn't take hold, and the child born from that union is a mamzer. Aval chachamim, the chachamim disagree. Ein mamzer me Yevamos. No, a Yevamos who marries out doesn't create mamzer. V'leime ein mamzer mechayev elaven. Why doesn't the Brisa just state simply that the chachamim disagree with the concept? Lav situation doesn't create a mamzer. Why do they have to say there's no mamzer with a Yevamos who marries out? It's not specific to Yevamos, it's a general concept. It's a general opposition to Rabbi Kiva, who treats a mamzer like an erva. They don't. And so the Gemara, no, because here we're speaking about a certain Tana, a certain point of view being represented in this brisa. Hi Tana, this Tana in the brisa is not the general Chacham who ignore Chayav Elavan. No, Hach Tana de Rabbi Kiva. It's a version in Rabbi Kiva itself, the Amar, who holds Mechayav Elavan de She'er Have Mamzer. Even Lavan can create Mamzer, but only specific Lavan, familial Lavan, relative Lavan. Mechayav Elavan Grady Lo Yave Mamzer, but regular situations of love don't create mamzer. So that's why they specify. The Chacham specify, this type of love, the Yevama l'shuk love, is not a relative type of love, and therefore there's no mamzer. But should it be a mamzer of she'er pertaining to relatives as a result of kurva? Rashi says like anusas aviv, or like marrying a chalutza. These are lavim pertaining to relatives. Certainly, it would have the same status as arayis. So we have really three shittas. Chachamim say only krisis, those arayis create mamzer. Rukiva says any type of situation which entails lav, and we have that middle shita, which is really another version of Rabbi Kiva himself, that only chayav lav and dishe'er, as opposed to Yevamos l'shuk. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Marav. What about a Yevama who decides to marry out? You see, she's really right now unmarried. Her husband passed away, but she's awaiting Yivam. She's tied to the Yavam. In fact, the Yavam will sort of take over for his departed brother. How do we treat her? Is she unmarried? Or do we treat her like a pseudo Esha, in which case Kedushin applied to her by a stranger, a non-Yavam, would not take hold? Says Rav, the latter is correct. How do you know that? If a stranger approaches a Yevama and gives her Kedushin, it doesn't hold at all. Eshes Hamesh shouldn't marry out. So aside from the Isser of marrying out, we learn Lo Yisihi, that means Lo Yiteheba Havaya. Havaya is Lashon Kedushin. Kedushin is inapplicable in this case. We treat her like an Eshes, like a married woman. Why? Because she's bound to the Yavam. We treat her like almost like his wife. She cannot. She doesn't have potential. Doesn't have the ability to marry a stranger. Shmuel Amar, I'm not so sure. Bani Yosenu, due to our lack of true understanding, lashon of oini, of being poor. Rashi says. From here, the lashon lanias daiti comes. You find in the Chuvas from lanias daiti. So Bani Yosenu, because we're not so sure which way to go. You see, there are two ways to look at it. Is she considered like a married woman, or perhaps not? Bani Yosenu, we don't take chances, and therefore tzricha get. We apply a get if, in fact, it was kedushin to a stranger. Mesapkel l'shmo, because Shmuel is unsure of how to learn this pasuk. This pasuk of loisia eshes hameis. What is it teaching us? Ila lavu da'asa. Is it just don't do it, or is it further than that? Ida lo tafsi ba kedushin hu da'asa, that kedushin can't be teifis in this issue. He's not sure. Amalei Rav Mari Barachal Rav Ashi. So Rav Mari Barachal tells Rav Ashi, Hachim Armeimer. Armeimer actually says that halacha kavasei the Shmuel, we follow Shmuel, we do a get. Amar Rav Ashi, Ha'ashtad Amar Armeimer. Hilchas kavasei the Shmuel. Now that Armeimer quotes Shmuel, Paskins like Shmuel. So what's going to happen in the following case? Im haya Yevama kayin. Suppose this Isha went and married out. Okay? Rashi says she thought, her husband passed away with a son, meaning that she thought the son was still alive, and then it turns out that they were mistaken. Son passed away before father, and she needs Yibam. So whatever it is, there was some sort of mistake that happened. And as a result, she married out. She didn't marry the Yavam. So Shmuel says, well, we're not sure how to deal with it. We do a get. But in the following case, a get will will disqualify her from Yivam. Why? Because Im Hoya Yevamo, it's a Lashon Mapikeh, the Yavam, her Yavam, the man, the potential Yavam, was actually a Kohen. And what happens if that stranger who married her gives her a get? The Kohen can't take her in any case. She's a Gerusha, or a Safek Gerusha. So what do we do now? We just let her stay. So we have the Yavam du Chalitza, and she's allowed to stay on with that other husband. Is that other husband is going to gain from the deal? He should have investigated further. He should have not gotten himself involved in a Safek. It turns out that a person who sinned will actually benefit. It just can't be. Sin cannot generate benefit. Just a contradiction in terms. Right? So this can't be true. What then? Ella rather as follows. No, like this. Im hoya Yevama Yisrael. If the brother, the potential Yavam, who's meant to do Yivam, was a Yisrael, not a Kohen. So in this case, Noisan Sheni get. So the other fellow who married her gives her a get, as per Shmuel's directive. V'utrulai, she becomes muta to the Yavam. Asks the Ritva, 1 second, why is it different than the Mishnah? Turns out that she remarried erroneously. She can't go back to the first husband either. He said here it's different because by Ishasish we're dealing with the severe Avera of Kares. Here it's just a love of Yivam Lashuk, and therefore we're not so machmer. Amar of Gidl, Amar of Chia, Bar Yosef, Amar Rav. Yivama, right? An Isha who's awaiting Yivam. You should know that Kiddushin Einba, one cannot. A person other than the Yavam cannot apply Kiddushin to this Isha, as we explained before. We treat her like an Isha's Ish. Nisun Yesh, but marriage takes hold. What does this mean? I Kiddushin Einba, if Kiddushin is not applicable, Nisun Nami Einba. Well, marriage either. You can't differentiate. If she's like a married woman, then none are applicable. Einba explained like this. Kiddushin of Nisun Einba. You're right, both. Kiddushin and Nisun cannot be applied, and Nisun cannot be applied to the Yavama. We treat her as though she's married to the Yavam. And as Rashi explains, back to the way Rav was quoted, it was like this. Just back up 2 lines. Yevama, Kedushin Einba. Kedushin is not applicable, right? We learned it from a pasuk. And the next part of the statement was sort of a question, was sort of a wonder. Nisuin Yeshba. If Kedushin doesn't work, Nisuin can. Meaning, basically what he's saying is both Kedushin and Nisuin cannot be applied to a Yevama. She's meant for the Yavam, and that's it. Another way to explain this is as follows. Kedushin doesn't work, but Nisuin does work. What does it mean? Nisuin works. My Nisuin Yesh, but what does that mean? Biznus. It means to say like this. Or some agoris Kiznus. They changed the base to a kaf Kiznus. Nisuin was just a way to relate to this Nus experience, meaning the Yavam who's awaiting the Yibum of the Yavam goes out and interacts with another person inappropriately. She commits Znus. We treat it as though an Ish committed znus, and she's usher to go back to her husband. To that extent, Yivam awaiting Yivam is like an Eshes Ish. Kidder Rav Nuna, Damar Rav Nuna. Shemeres Yavam, Isha is awaiting Yivam. Shezinsu committed znus with a stranger. Asurli Yivam, she can't go back to the Yavam. We treat it like an Eshes Ish who strayed. That's a big chiddush. This is very much in line with Rav. Yivam is like an Eshes Ish. Kedushin is not Teifis, and therefore when she commits znus, it's like an Eshes Ish who did so, which makes her usher on her husband. In this case, it's the Yavam. Another way to learn this. The way we originally figured, he said, Kedushin Einba, Nasuin Yeshba. Right? Kedushin is not Teifas on the Yavam, but Nasuin has an effect. What does this mean? Kedushin Einba, Nasuin Yeshba means that if she actually married somebody else, although it's not really halachically valid, because like we said, an Eshes Ish doesn't allow for another person to be Mekadesher. But in this case, you have to give a get. Just like in our Mishnah. An Eshes Ish who thought her husband wasn't around, she went and remarried. Mishnah says, husband number 2 has to issue a get. Because we penalize her, we put her through this uncomfortable process. It's all part of the knas. Here as well by the Yivam who actually went out and married a stranger, he has to give her a get. Why? The michlafa be'isha shaholach bala l'medinas hayam. So this is even Rav who says that a Yevama could not really sustain new Kedushin. Kedushin is not Teifis. But if she went and she interacted with a person that's married, she actually thought she went and she married somebody else, that fellow has to give a get, because it's going to be confused. The Michlfa, it's going to be confused with our halacha, of our Mishnah. The woman whose husband left town and came back later, and she went and remarried. We penalize her and she has to go through the whole get process, even with the husband number two. So we don't want to differentiate between these two similar cases. If we allow it over here, we'll allow it over there. So therefore we apply a get over here, so that it will ensure that in that case as well, a get will be applied. But that's only if she went and she married somebody. But if she's only engaged to somebody, a get is not applicable, just like an our Mishnah. Right? We learned this in Amar Aleph. If all this woman did was go and we're talking about the Isha whose husband, left town, and she went and she erroneously married somebody else, but it wasn't marriage, just a Kiddushin. Since there was no Isser done, we're not so machmar, we don't require a get, so here as well. But the Yevama L'Shuk, if she just did Kiddushin, we just ignore it. So we have machlokes in Rav and Shmuel, whether Kiddushin is Teifis in a Yevama. She goes and accepts Kiddushin from a stranger. Rav says, it's worthless. Kiddushin is worthless. Marriage is worthless. In fact, according to one pshat in the Gemara, if she does nus, it's as though an Isha's Ish went and was Mizan. Shmuel takes on a different view. He's not sure. Perhaps Rav is correct, perhaps not. Perhaps she's still only a potential wife to the Yavam. We don't treat her like an Isha's Ish, and we dash in the pasuk differently, and Kiddushin is Teifis in her. Amar Rav Yanai, how do we paskin? B'chabura, amongst the Chabura and the Beis Medrash, Nimnu, they took account, the Gemara, and they concluded, the majority view was, Ein Kedushin Teifis in B'Yevama, we follow Rav, we treat it like an Eshes Ish, Kedushin is not Teifis. Amar Rav Yechanan, why do you have to go through that trouble? It's a Mishnah. That teaches us so. Rebbe, he says Rebbe to Rabbi Yanai, Rebbe, lie Mishnah, saying isn't it a Mishnah? It's not. No, a person approaches an Isha and says, I'm giving you money for Kedushin, but I know that it's not going to work now. Whether because they're not yet Jewish, or they're still slaves. So he gives it on condition. It should be applicable later on. It should get activated after I become a ger, after you become a geyeris, after I get released from slavery, after you get released, after your husband passes away. Now you're an Eshes Ish, I can't be Mekadosh, but afterwards let it become active. After your sister, whom I'm married to, after she passes away, this Kedushin to you should be applied. Here's the punchline. She's a Yevama, awaiting Chalitza. I'm giving you Kedushin now. I want to be the first one in. I'm giving you Kedushin now that will be activated as soon as your Yavam does Chalitza. Which sounds like currently the Chalitza wouldn't, the Kedushin wouldn't work. That's why he has to condition it. It should only work later. In all these cases, Eina Mukadeshes, it doesn't work. Rashi says because it's called Davar Shaloi Bala Olam. It's something which is not in your hands, something that's not yet a reality. You can't activate something which is not yet here. Clearly, a Yevama prior to Chalitza is not a potential Isha to a stranger. That's a right to Rav. So why did you, Rav Yanai, had to go through the whole trouble and the whole process of taking account and issuing the psak? It's a Mishnah. A Yevama can't have Kedushin. Amar Leis, Rabbi Yanai says, you're right, but ilav, if not for the fact that the loylach chaspa, I picked up this chaspa, this piece of pottery, to uncover what's beneath it, mi mashkachas marganis, to say, would you have discovered the pearl beneath it? Meaning, you can learn the Mishnah differently than you did. You can say, well, maybe a Yevama can have Kedushin, but the fact is, it's not mutter now, so he's sort of dependent on the Chalitza, so that's why he's waiting for the Chalitza to happen, and since it's not in his hands to issue the Chalitza, he can't make a Kedushin, now for the future. Whatever, there are different ways to learn the Mishnah. It's only because I told you that we paskin like Rav, that a Yevama can't have Kedushin from a stranger. Because of that, you have applied that rationale to this Mishnah. Amali Rish Lakish turns to Rabbi Yechanan. He loved the kalsach, not for the fact that the kalsach gavar Rabbi, a great man, praised you and praised your way of interpreting the Mishnah, i.e., that in this Mishnah is embedded the halacha that a Yevama cannot get Kedushin until she has Chalitza. If not for the fact that you were backed up by Rabbi Yannai, I would have offered a different pshat in that Mishnah. Hava Amin, I would say, Hava Aminlach, I would have told you. Hava Aminlach, I would have explained to you that Masnis and Rabbi Kivi, this Mishnah which says that the problem apparently is a problem with doing Kedushin with a Yevama, that's Rabbi Kivi. The Amar in Kedushin, Taisim Chayav Elav, and a Kedushin can't be applied to a situation where there's a lav. So that's his shita. But the Rabbanan, who hold that Kedushin can be applied to a chayav elav, would hold that even a Yevama l'shuk can have Kedushin. Asks the Gemara, V'ir Rabbi Kiva, 1 second. If in fact this Mishnah would be Rabbi Kiva, he's disproving this, because if it would be Rabbi Kiva, it wouldn't work. Ki Amar, if he would have told the Isha, La'acha sheyachlis le'yivamach, l'tfisi ba Kedushin. If it's Rabbi Kiva, then the Mishnah says like this. He approaches the Yevama and says, I want the Kedushin to be activated after Chalitz. Ki amar lo la'acha sheyachos l'chivamech. If he said it like that, what's the problem? Live v'siba Kedushin. The Kedushin should be fine and dandy. Why? The Hashamin Rabbi Kiva, we know Rabbi Kiva holds, the Amar Adam Makna Davar Shalomay La'ilam. A person can be Makna, they can activate any type of legal, proceedings with something which is not even here. So what could be wrong with approaching the Yevama and offering a Kedushin on account of the future? This is not as we have in a Mishnah. The Isha is mad at her husband. She says, you know what? Kainam, it's a lashon of neder, iser, shani oisa, whatever I earn, whatever I produce, leficha, asr to your mouth. You can't consume what I earn. Ain't tzarech lahafer. The husband doesn't have to step in and override that, because she's meshubet. She's committed to him, and that overrides everything. Rabbi Kiva Amir Yafer. Husband should do a first and derm. You know why? Because shema tadif olav. Yoiser min aroi loy. She might actually produce more than she's obligated to, and that extra is really hers, and she can make it usher on him. She has balus on that, and therefore, to avoid any chashash isser, go ahead and annul her neder. Now let's keep in mind we're speaking about making a neder for something that's not even here. She didn't produce that yet. She didn't earn that. Apparently Rabbi Kiva holds you can apply isser to something that's not yet here. So what's the problem in the case of the Mishnah? Why can't he be Mekadesh a Yevama prior to Chalitza on account of the future? Oh, it's Allah. We have a pshat in that Mishnah. The reason why the neder works, Amar of Huna, Bereder of Yeshua, it's not just that the Isha decided to make something usher on account of the future. By Merer, she's saying, Yikdishu Yadai Le'iseyim. My hands should become Kaddish, become committed to Hashem, and it's a lashon of kedusha, a lashon of iser. So she's focusing on the hands that create that handiwork. The yodayim isnu ba'alma, the hands are here. That she can do. She can commit her hands to the iser, to the neder, and that's what Rabbi Kiva says. There's room for concern, but if it's simply davar shaloi b'lo'olam, something that doesn't exist, such as a yevama who's awaiting yibam and we're doing kedushin on account of later. Well, you're not here yet. The later Yevama is not here yet. Right? The future Yevama, the after Chalitza Yevama, is not yet Ba'ilam. You can't do Yibams, etc. You can't do Kedushin. You can't acquire a non-existing product. So bottom line is, this Mishnah with the Kedushin can very well be Rabbi Kiva. It's not that the Yevama can't tolerate Kedushin. It's not a right to Rav. Rather, because it's an Isser Lav, Rabbi Kiva holds, generally, you can't apply Kedushin to an Isser Lav. And the fact that the Mishnah espouses that you can't do a kinyan on something that's not yet existing, Rabbi Kiva agreed with that. Okay, so bottom line is, back to the Isha whose husband left town. He turns up, either by himself or by way of Adam who testify as to his existence, so she's in trouble. But only that, but not a koil. If it's just a rumor circulating, that wouldn't really have any effect. Now, if the Isha got married based on the testimony of an Eid Echad, we're following the Shita that holds that if a Yachid commits an Avera, which was sanctioned by Bezdin, a Halacha, which was taught through Bezdin, that Yachid is potter from Karban. What about in our case? An Isha married by way of an Eid Echad. Turns out to be untrue, factually untrue. Mishnah says she potter from Karban because she went and married by way of the Hayra'ah of Bezdin. It's their personal judicial decision that generated the Heter. The Brisa, based on the way the Iri learns it, would disagree with this halacha. It's just a factual mistake and you can't attribute it to Bezdin. Mishnah says if they gave her a Heter to marry and she didn't marry, she committed znus. She was mekalkel. So Rabbi Lezer says even znus would require her to bring a chat. Rabbi Yechon says only an amon l'kain gadol, a person with whom she could not have potentially had a marriage. In Mishnah we had 4 cases, all types of situations which turned out to be mistakes and errors. So in the first case she was a Yevamos who married out, child is a mamzer, in line with Rabbi Kiva holds as such. In the second case she turns out to be an Eshes Ach. Right? They thought there was Yibam, but really there was no need for a Yibam. His fellow married his sister-in-law, child is a mamzer. She thought her husband passed away. She remarried. It turns out he was around, but then passed away. The child, before that information arrives, that child is a mamzer, but afterwards is not a mamzer. Ishasish went and was niskadish to a stranger. Then her husband turns up. She can go back to him because no Isser was committed. Where's the halacha of a Yevama awaiting Yibam? Rab says, Kedushin is not taifis. We treat her like an Ishasish. Shmuel is not sure. If it happens, we give her a get misafik. If she commits isnus, Rav Nuna says it's like an Eishasish who committed znus, you can't marry the Yavam. Rav Ashi and others disagree. Not to that extent. Not to that extent. And regarding the Psak Halacha, we say that we paskin like Rav that the Kedushin is not Taifis by the Yavam L'Shuk. And we ended off with a discussion regarding a Mishnah there. Is it Rabban, is it Rabbi Kiva? Well, depends how you look at it. All the best to you and much hatzlacha.